morning, it's an after school, it's a Friday night. It's something like one of these, okay? And you might be thinking in your community, there's some I missed. And that's true. These are the ones I could think of. You may be thinking of others, okay? A lot of times these events, I want to say, I call them fun events. There are sometimes badge workshops and sometimes service projects that are a little bit more aligned with some of our program, but a lot of them are just kind of fun things or traditional things like Thinking Day that have been going on in communities for a long time, or a pool party, which is it's just fun, right? So those are the kind of events that I'm thinking of talking about today. And the reason I'm restricting this conversation to short duration events is because I thought if I talked about all events, people who are just putting their toe in the water, they're just thinking about doing, I'm gonna do for my bronze award or my silver award, I'm gonna do a badge workshop for brownies, okay? And so it's gonna be a couple of hours and we're gonna do the outdoor art badge, okay? And so that's kind of small. If I included all the things you would need to do a weekend event, it would feel like there were a lot of details and it was a harder job than it really is. So that's why I'm trying to split this into just a short duration event to keep it more of a checkpoint or checklist that you can follow that doesn't feel like it's too overwhelming. So 3 months in advance, and I think this is really key. If there's something that makes one of the biggest differences to your success is doing these things far enough in advance, okay? So you have to get the space, get the date, and get the word out. So what I mean by that is, first of all, you have to think about an event that you think you would have fun attending. Don't plan something you wouldn't have fun at. For instance, don't ask me to do a spa event with nails and doing facials and all that. I'm like, oh, gag me. That is not my space. So don't ask me to do that. Ask me to do an art event. Ask me to do a science event. Ask me to do an outdoor event. Those things are fun for me. Those are the things I will plan, okay? So I would invite you to make sure that don't have somebody talk you into an event that isn't your cup of tea, all right? So then you have to decide what the event is. Are you doing multiple levels? Or are you just doing one level, okay? Do attendees have to attend with their troop? Are you gonna let parents just drop kids off? So I will tell you, having attendees attend with their troop is a whole lot easier. So if you haven't done a lot of these, saying this is a troop event, the troop has to come, you have those extra adults doing adult safety ratios. It's a lot easier if they say, yeah, we're doing a brownie event, but this is, you come with your troop, okay? Get an idea of what the space that you need. So if you're doing an outdoor event, can you get a space that has a shelter? If you're doing an indoor event, will a school cafeteria work because it has tables and electricity? Do you need a stage? If it's gonna be a lot of people, oh, can I fit 150 people in this room, or would they have to sit on each other's laps? So get a sense of space. And then also, if you're getting a specialist to help with this, like you need a storyteller or a DJ, or you're gonna invite someone from the Ho-Chunk Nation to do their dances and talk about their traditions, you need to know that person 3 months in advance, because that's one of those things that makes the date come together, okay? If you're planning to have girls help, or girls are planning this, then you have to know that up front, because otherwise you start making all the decisions and either your troop mates or the troop that wants to help, I just get left in the dark. Okay, they're left in the dust. They don't get to help plan. So once you find the place and you know if you have some other people that you have to invite, then you start working on a date, and you have to often put down a some places are asked for some money to hold the place. Some places are free to us. Churches often are free to us. But if we're using one of the Badgerland facilities, for instance, then there's a deposit. So you'll have to put down a deposit. And then to me, 3 months in advance, the most important thing you need to do is get the word out to the people you want to attend. Most of the time, troop leaders are thinking ahead about 3 months. Okay, they're going to save their, this day on their weekend for Girl Scouts, as opposed to doing a family event or doing something like that. And lots of times, no matter how good your event is, how much fun their girls would have at your event, if it's only 4 weeks that they've got to plan their lives in order to make sure that they can get their troop there, it's just too tight. It's too hard. And they're just not going to be interested in helping you. So when I say get the word out, you don't even have to have all the things figured out of what you're going to do. You've got a topic and you've got a date, and you've got, is it morning or afternoon or evening? Okay. Get that much out. If you don't have a cost, it's okay. You can always tell them the cost, but you got to get them to get it on their calendar, and you have to get the word out to their troop members so that the troop members put it on their family calendars. You can have really good ideas, like a wonderful pool party, for instance. And you can get a date for a pool party like 3 weeks in advance, but people just aren't going to be able to scramble to get themselves to your pool party if they don't have enough lead time. The other thing, and for me, this is one of the places I fail, is use all the communication options available to you. Like, you might be an Instagram person, and that's how you like to communicate. So that's how you'd like to tell people about your event. But the thing is that you need to think about how the people want to get their news. Not how you want to give the news, but how they want to get their news. So you're going to use every possible way you've got to get this initial information out. If you've got a Facebook group for your community, use Facebook. If you've got Shutterfly, use Shutterfly. If you've got an email distribution list, use an email distribution list. If you have leaders meetings and people are going to show up at leaders meetings, show up at the leader meeting. Use every single one of them, because that's how people are going to show up at your event. You're going to put lots of work into this event, and you're going to feel really bad if nobody shows up. So try and make sure you get that word out as much as possible. Okay. Now, one thing that might help you is if it's an event that your community does fairly often. For instance, a lot of communities, Thinking Day. They always have a Thinking Day event, okay? So people kind of know it's coming. That takes some of this burden off of you. We always have Thinking Day. It's always in the school cafeteria. It's always in February. That cuts you a little slack. But if you're doing a Me and My Guy dance, and your community's never done a Me and My Guy dance, that's where you really need that advanced planning. That just the fact, hey, it's coming, save the date, I'm doing this neat thing. Okay. Oops. I jumped to, okay, planning details. So you need a format. There's a couple of common formats, and I'll use some short duration events as an example. One would be Thinking Day, which is a kind of wander around kind of event. There might be an opening, right, where you parade all the flags in and you say the Girl Scout promise. And then you wander around from table to table, learning about Girl Scouting in different countries. And then after an hour, then you have a closing ceremony of some kind. So there's an opening, a closing, and kind of some free form in between. That's one common short duration event. A dance would be like that. A pool party would be like that, right? It's got just a beginning and an end, and after that, there's not a lot of planned time frame. Something that would be different would be something that has stations in it. So it still might have an opening and a closing just to get people information, but then you're going to have like stations, and every station is going to be 20 minutes long or 30 minutes long, and you're going to have an activity at each one of those stations. All of those things can be successful, but early in your process, you want to decide which of those two you want to do, because you have to plan a little bit differently for them. If you're doing one with stations, it's really important to try and figure out, can I do activities that all take 20 minutes or all take 30 minutes, right? Sometimes some crafts are like 45 minutes and playing a game is about 15. So you got to figure out that on your activities if you're doing stations. Okay, if we're going to do games that take 15 minutes, then maybe the other 15 minutes is songs. So they're going to do games and songs at a station. And that craft that I think is going to take 45 minutes, I'm going to make it simpler so it fits in 30 minutes. So there's a little jockeying you have to do. And that would be like a badge workshop, would be something where you would be doing that kind of thing. Are you doing food? Now, for activities that are only a half a day or an evening, yeah, there might be some food, but it's a little bit of your activity. It's not a big meal. So that keeps this a little simpler. But you at least need to know, am I doing food, and is it a snack or is it something that's going to be hot? You do need to think about, if you're doing stations, do you need somebody to staff the table? Is it hard enough that someone actually has to demonstrate it? Or is it something where you could make a really good big poster, and anybody who's, if you had a troop show up at this station, they could read it and they could follow along. All the activities would be there. I call those walk up and do, okay? Because if you need some volunteers to run the stations, then you got to go find some friends, okay, to do those stations, or some troop mates to run those stations. So you need to know early if you need that, because you've got to line them up. If you've got 6 stations and you've only got 3 friends, you got a gap that you got to fill it pretty quickly. You do have to think about, if you've got multiple activities, where you're going to put them in your facility. So if you have song and games, you might need an open space and it's kind of noisy. And you want to put that station some distance away, somebody who is teaching a craft, because otherwise they have to yell so loud compared to the song and games people. So you just have to kind of lay it out. And when I say sketch, this is just pretty simple. Song and games are over here in their corner, keeping down the hall where they keep the noise down. And the people who are talking are kind of in their own corner. I talked about this earlier, but are you doing an event where troops are coming as a troop, so you have troop leaders and you're doing safety ratios? Or are you letting people just show up, in which case you got to make sure you've got enough adults for safety ratios, okay? Like I said, anytime you get the troop leaders coming, you've made your job easier. And you've made their job easier too, if you think about it. You're providing an activity for their girls that they really will enjoy, but they don't have to do anything but show up. And then just this little thing, make sure you've got a first aider. I mean, it's really easy when you're thinking about what are we going to do to forget about the fact that you need a first aider. Okay, here's the things that have to do with numbers, okay? Budget and other picky items. One of the things you have to do is say, how many people are going to show up? How many girls are going to show up? And you say, okay, I'm going to do a brownie badge event. I think I'm going to have 40 brownies come. Okay, and I'm going to have some adults come with their brownie troops, but I'm going to have 40 girls. Okay. So I'm going to say 40. And then there are some times where we're going to say, well, what happens if I get more and what happens if I get less? One of the things you need to think of is who's coming, because there's something called additional insurance. So if you think that you're going to get people that aren't Girl Scouts, for instance, you're doing a badge workshop that's a bring a friend badge workshop for brownies, because you think maybe some more girls will join Girl Scouts if they do a badge workout and they can bring a friend and they can see how much fun it is. Okay, then you need to do this thing buying additional insurance. It's not very expensive, but it's just something you have to remember. And then you remember, we've got information out to troop leaders at this point that says what the date is, where it is, but we haven't told them how much it costs yet, because we got the info out, save the date, but we didn't tell them how much it's going to cost, because we're still figuring that out. And this is how you have to figure out the cost. And this is sometimes the intimidating part of this, because there's, to figure out the total costs, there's different things you have to do. So one of the things is, suppose you're renting one of the Girl Scout camps and it costs $60 to rent that camp, and you're going to have 40 girls come. Okay, that's what you're estimating. Okay, so then you're saying, okay, 40 girls, $60. That means $1.50 a girl is just to cover my site. And I'm doing that division. I have to divide that cost by how many people I think are going to come. So I got $1.50 for my facility cost. There's some things that it's real easy to do the cost per person. Like you're going to give them a patch, and you go to Snappy Patches and the patches are 75 cents a piece. So now that's an easy one. Okay. So now I've got $1.50 in facility costs and I got 75 cents in my patch. So I'm up to $2.25. As part of my activity, I'm going to do this craft, and I don't know how much that craft is going to cost per person. So I actually have to build it myself. I have to go to Hobby Lobby or to Michael's or order stuff from Oriental Trading, and I have to make one. And I have to add up how much it's going to cost for all the materials. Even if I don't make it, I have to at least look and find out what all the pieces would cost me, how many of that craft those pieces would be, and then add that in. And it's hard to do for much less than $1. Okay, by the time you do, suppose we're making, fish kites, tissue paper fish kites. So they have a loop in them and the air goes through like a windsock. So I've got a pipe cleaner, I've got tissue paper, I've got glue sticks, I've got string, I've got a dowel to tie it to, and I've got to add up all those things and it's going to cost me $1.25 to do my fish kite. Okay, so I'm adding that to my cost. I was at $2.25, now I'm to $3.50. Okay, and then maybe I'm going to do a guess of, I'm going to do a snack. I don't know what snack I'm doing. I don't know if I'm doing apples and graham crackers. I don't know if I'm doing juice boxes and granola bars. I don't know if I'm doing popcorn and potato chips, but I think I can do a snack for $1. I'm guessing. It's okay to guess for some of those. So now I'm up to $4.50 a person. You see how I did that? And then the last thing is, suppose 40 people don't come. Suppose only 30 people come. And so I need a little cushion. If you are in a community where you have some money as community money, like a membership area money, and they can cover if you don't have quite enough because fewer people come, and you ask them, can you cover a shortfall? Then I don't put a cushion in. But if this is an event like it's my troop is doing this badge workshop for brownies, and we can't afford to not get enough money, then you throw in 50 cents extra in case you need something. So now I'm up to $5. That's how I do my budgeting, okay? And now I'm sending out a new flyer, new information that says it's $5 a person, okay? Because remember, we gave them the date, we gave them what we were gonna do, we gave them the place, now we're adding in the cost. And when we add in the cost, we'll send a registration form that says, who's coming, it's $5 a person, send a check by a deadline. Okay. The week of the event, get organized, okay? First of all, send, when I say an excited reminder email to attendees, you can't wait for them to come and do this fun event you have spent all this work to do, okay? And remind them of the details, like where to park, what door to come into the building, those kinds of things. Find a folder to stuff in all of the stuff, so it's all in one spot. I put all the receipts in one spot. And I start making signs and lists, lots of signs. Enter here, station 1, station 2, station 3. Start making those signs. If you can do some of those in advance, you'll be happier. But the week of the event, you better be doing it, okay? You'll probably have a check-in packet that'll have, it might have name tags in it. It might have some program materials in it. It might have an evaluation. The kinds of program materials you might put in there are the things that everybody's going to want. So suppose you're making crowns, okay? You're doing a brownie princess event and there's a crown for everybody. It's going to be pretty easy for girls to only grab one crown, but you know what they're going to grab 20 of? Those really big gems, because they are so neat. And so you've only budgeted for 8 gems a girl, right? That's a lot of gems, but a lot of girls are going to say, I want 20. So you may end up putting in your check-in packet the right number of gems per troop so that the last group making crowns ends up with some gems. Otherwise, the early girls are going to do 20 gems and the last girls aren't going to get any gems. You know how that happens. You can decide on that. So you start putting stuff in boxes and you label the boxes so your helpers can help. And you have a box that I call an event survival. Masking tape, scissors. Put a box together of those kinds of things for whatever surprise happens. Do the grocery shopping in terms of food, okay? Or get somebody else to do it for you. That's an easy one, to give somebody a grocery list. And then if you're like having your event at your church, call the church again and say, okay, who unlocks the door? Is there going to be a custodian there? Am I sure I can get in the door? Okay. And then I start stacking stuff up so I have to fall over it so I can't forget it. Okay. And I put great big notes. Like one of the things is when I have events, I happen to keep the butter in the freezer. So I put a big note to go downstairs and get the butter out of the freezer as I'm going out the door, because otherwise I am going to walk out the door and I'm going to forget the butter. Here's the day of the event. Get there as early as you can. It really makes a difference. You will have more fun if you aren't rushed. Phone a friend to help with setup. Get some people to help you carry the boxes in. Do you know how long it takes to carry boxes into a room? It's amazing. You know, a car full of boxes without help, how long it takes just to get stuff into the place. Try and get someone else to man the check-in table because you're doing setup. If somebody else can man the checkup table, then you can do all the other odds and ends. Okay? Some things won't work. They won't. You've tried really hard, you're gonna get surprised, okay? Just figure it out. People will have a good time if you're having a good time. People will have a bad time if you're grumpy, You will make or break this event. Not the thing that went wrong, your approach to it. Spend time with people who came. This is why you did it. You wanted to see these people have a good time doing something interesting. Spend time with them. At some point, either at your opening or your closing, make sure you thank the people who helped you, okay? You can give them a little gift. It doesn't have to be a fancy gift. You can go get nice chocolate bars for $2.50 a piece, put a bow on it, something that's 70% chocolate, Keiko, you know, the cocoa in it, so it's really something they wouldn't buy for themselves, and they will feel so good about giving you a hand at your event. Cleanup. Get some help doing cleanup because you're tired, they're tired. It's good to have a lot of tired people cleaning up. And that tends to be the thing where at the end, if the facility is grumpy with you, it's because you didn't clean up very well. And then reward yourself. So when I run an event, on the way home, I always stop at Culver's and get an ice cream cone to reward myself. Every single time. I did a good deed. I deserve an ice cream cone. And I always say, my criteria for an event being successful is nobody threw up. Anything that's above that, where nobody throws up, is a success. And sometimes I have failed because people have thrown up, but that's my criteria. And lastly, there's a little bit of homework to do, right? You have to go look at the money. How much money did I get in? Do I have to write a check for anybody? Does somebody have to write a check to me? And make sure the money works out. And then you put an evaluation in your check-in packet. So go read those evaluations because they're gonna make you feel good. You're gonna understand that you made a difference to some girls and they got to do something at your event that they really enjoyed. Here's our last chart. There is a Badgerland Community Event Planning Guide. I am going to, just a second, show you what the outside of that looks like. Let me do a quick stop share here. Okay, it looks like this, okay? It's got lots of information in it. It's got more information in it than you're gonna want right at the beginning. That's why we did this presentation, so that you had 5 charts to follow instead of reading this whole presentation. It's all in here. In fact, more than that is in here. But if you follow my guidelines, I think you will like the idea that then you can just go look in here for some more details that weren't in my charts. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Okay. Also, the Badgerland Customer Care Group can give you a hand. They might be able to help you with finding things that you need. Like you're going to do an outdoor event and you want the parachute. Okay, so they can help you reserve the parachute, for instance. And then there are people like Carrie, leadership development specialists at the Girl Scout Council, that will also be glad to help you be successful. Like there's checkout material, or like you've got, you need flags for Thinking Day, or you're just stuck on one event. You've got, I'm gonna do this brownie badge workshop and I've got 4 events. I got this 5th one, I'm just stuck. I need somebody to help me brainstorm, and they'll be able to help you brainstorm. So take advantage of the staff at Badgerland Council. That's what I've gotten together for our presentation.